Hey, Dr. Amy here, and in this video, I'm sharing with you 12 things that nobody tells you about chemotherapy. You've probably never heard this before, so whether you're just about to start chemo, in treatment, or if you've already finished chemo, you still need to know this. If you don't know these things, well, chemo is long-lasting and you could be suffering for absolutely no reason. Chemo impacts your body in shocking ways. This is what you need to know so you don't get left in the dark. Hello? Scary in here. Starting with number 1, nausea is not the most common side effect of chemotherapy. A lot of people believe that nausea is gonna be their number 1 side effect of chemo, but it isn't. I'm gonna share with you what is actually the most common side effect of chemotherapy. That's up next. It's normal to be stressed about nausea and vomiting, but here's the good news. The medications that we have to control nausea and vomiting from chemotherapy have improved a lot in the last couple of decades. People just do not throw up in the chemo chair or in a hospital bed like they used to. This just doesn't happen very much anymore. Even before I started my doctorate in cancer care, I actually thought that nausea was the number 1 side effect from chemotherapy. Now, with that said, some women still have nausea and vomiting because of chemo. So if this was you, completely understandable. But when we look at everyone who gets chemotherapy, the most common side effect is not nausea anymore. So what is the most common side effect from chemotherapy? What do most people experience? Exhaustion, fatigue, tiredness, complete exhaustion. This is the number 1 side effect of chemotherapy. 80 to 100% of people who get chemotherapy will experience exhaustion. The good news is that there are very targeted and clear things you can do to improve your energy. If you're feeling this way, there is hope. Exhaustion is actually the number 1 reason why women come to me for support in the Cancer Freedom Program. But there is bad news. If you don't do anything to fix the exhaustion, it will not get better. In this case, time does not heal all wounds and it will not fix your energy. There's this common misconception that we just need to take cancer survivors and wrap them up in a blanket and plunk them in bed and nurse them back to health. But this is not helpful. If you want to reclaim your energy, then you actually have to be strategic about it, using targeted nutrition and exercise. If you want to find out exactly how to reclaim your energy and target your exhaustion, then book a one-on-one consult with me, Dr. Amy. This is 100% free. I'll assess your diagnosis, your treatment, and then I'll start to outline a plan specific to you and your body and to reclaim your energy. If you're exhausted, you don't have to feel this way. Click the link below to book a one-on-one consult with me. It's 100% free. The third thing that you need to know about chemo is that your taste will change. Now, I'm sure you don't find this super surprising, but this first thing you might find kind of shocking. The taste of almost everything changes. Even water is gonna have a different taste than it did before. Some people really struggle to drink water at all, but that actually leads me to my next point, which is kind of tough news for you now. If you're getting chemotherapy or if you've had it in the past, you need to drink lots of water. This is especially important after finishing chemotherapy. During chemo, you'll receive lots of IV hydration, but after chemo finishes, that stops. Now it's up to you. A lot of symptoms go away and you'll just start to feel better when you're properly hydrated. So your job during chemo and after chemotherapy is to drink lots of fluids. Being dehydrated could mean that you actually have more side effects. It's gonna make your exhaustion worse, your nausea worse, so stay hydrated. On to number 6, not all chemo causes hair loss. Before I was diagnosed with cancer, I was already working in cancer care. So I truthfully already knew a lot about chemo, radiation, and other types of cancer treatments. I was always at the bedside helping patients day in, day out, helping them through active treatment. But I think what most people don't realize about chemo is that not all chemo actually causes you to lose your hair. There are many different types of chemotherapy, and even if you do end up getting chemo, doesn't mean you're gonna lose your hair. We're so used to seeing this cliche image of a cancer patient, someone bald or really sick. And that's what we think of when we think of cancer, but it's not necessarily true. A client that I work with actually cut her hair short as soon as she heard she had cancer. The unfortunate part was that she actually ended up getting a type of chemotherapy where she didn't lose her hair. She went through the tough process of chopping off her long, beautiful hair, and she didn't have to. But that actually leads me to point number 7. You might lose your nose hair. Okay, This doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But here's what you need to know. Losing your nose hair actually makes your nose a lot more sensitive. Hair in your nose is actually a barrier of protection against allergens, viruses, bacteria. If you lose your nose hair, you'll likely find that your nose is a lot more runny during chemotherapy. Up next is ignore people's advice. Okay, that's actually kind of a weird piece of advice to give. Ignore people's advice. So should you ignore this advice? Okay, never mind. Let's just get into it. A lot of people will try to give you advice. Your neighbor, your coworker, your mother-in-law, what to do, what to eat, how to navigate cancer. People are genuinely trying to help, but often this type of advice is incorrect and it can be dangerous. So you do not want to take this advice that's offered to you. This is a common mistake that cancer survivors make, and I don't want you to make the same one. The ninth thing that you need to know about chemotherapy is that your fertility can be impacted. Many oncologists and cancer clinics actually just forget to mention this to women, so I want to make sure you hear it here. Chemotherapy can impact your fertility. Not all chemotherapy, but many can. So if you're thinking about growing your family or trying to conceive after you're done with cancer, then you're gonna wanna be proactive about preserving your fertility. That brings me to the 10th thing that you need to know about chemotherapy, and this is an important one, so listen up. Do not be fooled by the advice to eat whatever you want. If you ask your oncologist or care team about different foods to include or avoid during chemotherapy, then you might have got this advice: eat whatever you want. This is actually really bad advice. It's completely ridiculous to think that eating chips and ice cream will support your body in the same way as eating lean protein and vegetables. Like, I mean, come on. This saying of eat whatever you want came from back when people used to get super nauseated during cancer treatment. They would be throwing up and nauseated all the time, have no appetite, lose a bunch of weight, and become frail and weak. But that's simply not what we see anymore. Most women actually gain weight during chemotherapy. This is made even worse by the advice of to eat whatever you want. But here's something that many people will say to you about chemotherapy: that you just need to get used to this new normal. There's actually no such thing as new normal. This is a term of complacency. Saying that you must have a new normal after cancer is completely misguided. You can be the healthiest and fittest version of yourself after cancer. I can say that because I'm personally a cancer survivor, and I can say wholeheartedly that I'm fitter now than I was before cancer. Whatever you want as a cancer survivor can be yours after you're done with chemo. You can be healthy, you can be fit, you can travel the world, spend time with family and friends. But here's the catch. You need a really clear cancer recovery plan in order to get there. You need to make sure you focus on exercise, nutrition, and mindset. It's these 3 pillars that will get you to a complete and holistic cancer recovery. Okay, on to my next point. Chemotherapy can cause brittle nails. Nails can be brittle, weak, or flake off. Some women do okay, but others really notice this. Nails can go black or blue, or they can sometimes just fall off. Some women do say that painting their nails with nail polish helps to prevent this. Or putting your fingertips on ice during your chemotherapy will actually slow the blood flow to your extremities, and therefore less chemotherapy will get to your fingertips. And that ties into the next thing that you need to know about chemotherapy. Neuropathy can happen with a lot of common chemotherapy. Neuropathy is nerve pain. This is a pins and needles type of pain, which generally happens in the hands or the feet. But it can also present as a numbness. The problem with neuropathy or damage to the nerves is that it takes a very, very long time to repair. Nerve damage actually takes years to recover. So we really want to make sure we prevent this from happening. But if you already have neuropathy, then you need to take action to speed up the recovery. There are definitely strategies to repair this. That's exactly why I've linked up this next video here on how to fix your neuropathy after chemotherapy. If you're in pain, if you're struggling, then you need this. Click the video here and I'll see you in the next video.